Hi, I'm Tom Loucks, Director of Communications for the City of Marshfield. And today I have 7th Congressional District candidate Tricia Zunker, and she is the Democrat that's running against Tom Tiffany. He is a Republican for the 7th Congressional District position, which was once held by Sean Duffy. In just a moment, we'll share an interview with Tricia.
I was born and raised in Wausau. I grew up in a strong union household. My mom is a 30-plus year union member of USW Local 2-224 here in Wausau, and I was actually out on the picket lines with her in 1992. Some people may remember when James River was striking. I was in 6th grade at the time and out there with her and her coworkers. I am the granddaughter of a dairy farmer. My grandpa had a farm in the town of Easton. I am a member of Ho-Chunk Nation. I am a first-generation college graduate. I earned my undergraduate degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then I went on to law school at UCLA, and I chose UCLA because of their stellar federal Indian law and tribal legal development program. I wanted to be able to gain that education and experience and bring it back to Wisconsin, which is exactly what I did. There was an opportunity that arose in my tribe, which was a special election, and that was for the seat of Associate Justice on the Ho-Chunk Supreme Court. I was the underdog, but I campaigned aggressively. I did prevail, and I'm actually serving in my 2nd elected term on the Ho-Chunk Nation Supreme Court. I made my way back here with my young son in tow. I am a solo parent, and eventually made my way back to Wausau, which is where I'm from. And I currently am the school board president of the Wausau School Board, and that's what brought us here today.
Let's talk a little bit of how the state is handling the COVID-19 crisis. Can you give me a little bit of an insight on how you feel it's going on from the state's perspective, and what maybe you would do differently or the same?
Well, I think first and foremost, we always have to listen to the experts. We don't see enough people in decision-making positions that are going to the facts and data as a source of decision-making, and we need to do that. So I'm very glad to see that Governor Evers did act, that he did listen to the medical experts so that we could get ahead of this coronavirus and flatten the curve. Now, a disappointing aspect of that original order is the fact that it did not address the April 7th election. Because people went to the polls. I'm sure you saw images out of Milwaukee and other parts of the state, but nobody should risk their lives to exercise their fundamental right to vote, and that's what occurred. So I found that to be deeply troubling. And now with the extension of the order, it also doesn't address the May 12th special election. I had been urging for a mail-in election because that is the safest method, but it's not going to happen. So people can still vote absentee, but there are barriers with that as well for people that don't have internet access, that have difficulty taking the picture and uploading their ID, for people that don't have the requisite witness. I mean, I'm a solo parent. I live with a 9-year-old, so I don't have a legal witness myself here. We have to be practicing safe social distancing. Another concern of mine is what was deemed essential and non-essential, and how that was impacting businesses and small businesses. One business up in Tomahawk that I actually met the owners in my campaigning throughout the district, and I saw them on a local news program, and I was shocked to find out that they were deemed non-essential. Law enforcement came and closed them down, and so I reached out to them to see how they were doing and if I could assist. They have a CBD store, and they were telling me about their customers that have pain and suffering and they won't have access to their products. And so I did attempt to help them. I think now under the current extension of the order, they are able to open back up. But I think we have to be real careful in determining what is essential, what is not. But the bottom line is, I am very grateful that something happened soon, and so that we can minimize the deaths here and people that contract the coronavirus.
A lot of farmers are having a difficult time here in Wisconsin. How do you handle the farm crisis, and what would you do if you become elected?
Absolutely. This is one of the things that was critical when I first started running, because of the skyrocketing farmer bankruptcies and farmer suicide crisis that we have here in Wisconsin. There are a number of things that we need to do for our farmers, for our small and mid-sized farmers. We need to ensure access to competitive markets. We need to ensure funding for mental health resources for our farmers. We need to eliminate predatory business practices that hurt our farmers. We need to support small businesses, because when we support small businesses, we support our farmers. And we need to ensure broadband access, not just for our farmers, but for all of Wisconsin 7. But this is something that I saw when I was getting out in the district. I was on farms. I was talking to small farmers telling me how they struggle to get online. And essentially, what that means is they are being deprived of opportunity. And this is not the only place that I heard about broadband. I mean, I've had a visit up in Rhinelander at Nicolay College with a number of faculty, and I heard about the broadband situation there. 30% of the classes are online, but students struggle to get online, staff struggles to get onto grade. This is basically a utility, and we are seeing this now more than ever in COVID-19, how people need to have access to internet. So those are a number of things. And I will share that I have been reading some very alarming stories about farmers having to dump milk, get rid of their products through COVID-19. But I reached out to farmers that I met on the campaign trail, and so far, nobody that I met here in Wisconsin 7 has had to dump milk or dump their products. So that is a positive thing. But overall, I've been hearing those horror stories. Maybe you've heard them too about farmers, but that hasn't happened with people that I've met here.
Okay. Talk a little bit about pollution and how Wisconsin and the state is handling any of our pollution in our area, lakes, our waters, our air quality.
Well, I think we absolutely have to protect the environment. We must ensure clean air, clean water, and that our beautiful land stay protected from corporate greed for generations to come. I think that there are some places where we need to address this. So we were just talking about farmers. I put thousands upon thousands of miles on my car getting throughout this expansive district. 26 counties, all the way up north to Superior, all the way to the west over in St. Croix County. And something that's over there in the western part of the district, they have a serious concern about CAFOs, the concentrated animal feeding operations, something we really don't have here in central Wisconsin. So I had to become very educated on those CAFOs, and then to find out about the pollution that occurs and the damage to the environment, and that really they are just being, they're supposed to self-regulate, self-report. That's a recipe for disaster. So that would be an area that we can look into and change those regulations, make sure that there are somebody's auditing what's happening on the CAFOs and reduce environmental pollution that way.
Let's talk a little bit about money and how it works in politics. Give me a little bit about how you feel about that.
This is an excellent question. I teach constitutional law, and I teach my students about Citizens United, and I allow them to draw their own conclusions. But I can tell you here that we need to overturn Citizens United. We need to get the corporate money out of politics. We need to ensure that we have representatives who are accountable to the people and only the people. I don't know if everybody's aware about how much money funnels into elections, outside money, and that influences the election. And it's just wrong. The people that live in that district should be the ones who make the decision on who represents them, not some outside billionaires and outside super PACs that have some stake in the game. So I believe that we need campaign finance reform. This is something that I've always thought, but I'm seeing this from a different angle also, because I don't accept corporate PAC money. I believe you have to practice what you preach, and I don't accept corporate PAC money. This is a grassroots campaign. And I appreciate each and every small dollar donation, but it really is something to see when an opponent has a lot of money funneling in outside money. And it really prevents, potentially, at least here, but it does prevent us from achieving a government that is reflective of society.
How do you feel the state is handling our education? Are we providing a good education for our kids?
Well, I am school board president of the 13th largest school district in the state of Wisconsin. There are 421 public school districts here in Wisconsin. And I have to commend our teachers, our staff, just amazing people that show up each and every day for our students. And we are seeing that now, how they have taken on this COVID-19 crisis and the hard work that they're doing remotely to keep their students engaged. But we get a small pittance from the state. We try to make the best that we can so that we can ensure our students have what they need for success and that we can value our teachers and staff. I would like to see the state prioritize public education more and allow for more dollars to be spent towards public education. We know that we are grossly underfunded as it relates to special education needs. Also so that we could be able to value our teachers for the incredible work that they do. That said, I do think that we have a strong education system here, but we do need to prioritize it more.
More than ever now with COVID-19, healthcare is really, really important. And it's really expensive right now for most of the average American. What would you do for the state of Wisconsin? Is there anything that you could do if elected to help in the cost of healthcare for people that need that kind of maybe plan?
We absolutely need to ensure affordable, accessible healthcare for all Wisconsinites. We need to expand the ACA, and we need to make sure that people have access not just to physical healthcare, but mental health care. And we also need to make sure that people with pre-existing conditions are covered without penalty. And we need to take on big pharma and drastically lower the cost of prescription drugs.
Let's talk about working people. I know that's a part of it on your platform here, working people in Wisconsin, and you stand up for them. Very big in the unions, if I'm right.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about your support in that.
Well, I support our unions. Like I said, I grew up in a strong union household, and our workers are better off when they have a collective voice. And I don't believe that workers should be exploited. I support our unions, and I would not be a passive supporter. I'd be out on the picket lines with our unions if need be, if it came down to that. But we as society are better off because of the work and contributions of unions, and we need to continue to support them.
All right, let's talk about our president, President Trump. How do you feel he's done in the past 3.5 years, and really for our state of Wisconsin in particular?
Well, when he was running, I will give credit where credit is due. I like the fact that he said he was going to bring our troops home, because we need to stop funding this never-ending foreign conflict and bring our troops home and put those funds to things that are going to make life better here in Wisconsin. However, that did not happen. A couple of criticisms that I will share. Number one, the trade wars. We have to get tough on China, but not at the expense of our Wisconsin farmers, and not just our dairy farmers, but our ginseng farmers suffered terribly from that as well. The very first day that I announced my run, my first stop after my press conference was at a ginseng farm in Edgar, Wisconsin, and to learn how they were being affected by the trade wars and that they were facing bankruptcy and not being able to survive the year was deeply heartbreaking. The COVID-19 situation, this is something where his response was inadequate. He had the information in January and chose not to address it. People have died, avoidable deaths. People have gotten sick avoidably because he didn't listen to the experts and address this early on. I'm glad to see that there are responses now, but we really need to make sure we're listening to the experts and not just saying things off the cuff that people are relying on. So we need some real leadership coming out of the president's office, and I don't believe that we have that right now.
Okay. I want to open the floor up to you before I ask that last question, why someone should elect you. Anything on your mind that you want to share with the voters here of Wisconsin?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. Number one, I do want to point out that this is a historic election. When I prevail on May 12th, I will be the first Native American, specifically Ho-Chunk, to ever represent Wisconsin in Congress. That is an overdue representation. I will also be the first woman ever to represent Wisconsin 7 in Congress. That is also an overdue representation. But I'm not asking anybody to vote for me because I'm an Indigenous woman. I'm asking people to vote for me because I'm a hardworking, qualified woman who's going to work and get the job done for the people of Wisconsin 7. But women's issues are human issues, and it is high time our women and our girls see themselves reflected in congressional leadership. And our boys need to see it too. And the other thing I want to point out is that You know, I spent thousands upon thousands of miles getting out in this district, listening to voters and hearing concerns. And we talked about a lot of issues, and a lot of the same things came up. But there was also a theme that kept coming up, and it was that people are tired of division. They're tired of attacks. They're tired of gridlock. They just want to see somebody who's going to go to work and work hard for them. And I am the person in this race who's going to do that. I have a demonstrated record of working with people of different political beliefs, if you will. You know, as school board president, the very first thing that I did when I got on the school board is I reached out to each and every board member. I asked them if they had a little time so I can meet one-on-one with them. And I work really well with the board members. In fact, the person I work the best with is politically opposite end of the spectrum, but we work well together through looking at the facts and data as a source of decision-making, which I don't think enough people in decision-making power positions do. We work well together through respectful communication and listening to one another. And that is something that I would bring to Washington. We really need people that are going to focus on how does this make things better for my constituents, and less on attacks and gridlock. And I'm not about any of that. I'm just about results. I'm a very results-oriented person, and I'm looking forward to being able to work hard like Congressman Dave Obey did. And he has endorsed me in this race, which is such a deep honor as he represented this district for 42 years. In fact, you know, I grew up in Wasta, and he was my congressman my entire childhood. So it's a deep honor to have his endorsement. But those are a couple of things that I'd like to share with you.
Why a voter should really elect you for the next position.
Absolutely. It might be my name on the ballot, but what's really on the ballot is ensuring affordable, accessible health care, including mental health care, reducing the cost of prescription drugs, addressing the farm crisis and making sure that our small and mid-sized farmers are taken care of, protecting the environment and addressing this climate emergency with the urgency it requires, campaign finance reform, investing in our future, which means investing in our children and their education, criminal justice reform. There's so many things at stake here, and I'm the person in this race who is going to address them, making sure we have broadband access through Wisconsin 7. So that's that, you know, it might be my name on the ballot, but that's what's really on the ballot here. And also being able to address this COVID-19 situation. We need to elect somebody who is going to step in day one and make sure that Wisconsin families have what they need, that our vulnerable populations have what they need, that our people on the front lines have the protection that they need, that our small businesses can get the funding that they need. And I'm the one in this race prepared to do that. So I'm looking forward to working hard for everyone in Wisconsin 7, and I'm very grateful for the supporters. And the other thing I do want to say is I will be working very hard to return to the amazing constituency services that Congressman Dave Obey had, making sure that people have notice to town halls, that they get substantive responses to their concerns. We have been without that for a number of years, and I will bring that back to Wisconsin 7 as well.